Back on day one of this trial, Patrick Clancy, under direct examination, said the words context matters. And yesterday, we found out exactly what that means, because it turns out that the prosecution had led us all down this path that Lindsay wasn't taking her drugs as prescribed. There was no way she was over medicated, and to the point where it almost made the jury, I'm sure this was their intent, to make the jury believe that she was faking her illness, because there's no way she could be under any sort of psychosis if she's not taking the medications. Yesterday, the defense attorney had a chance to question Patrick Clancy, and we find out, all of the things, like he was a witness to all of these things, and he verified that there was a diary that Lindsay kept that, and this is a photo of the pages where she detailed, she's a control freak's gonna control freak, right? So she has all the list of every single day. Here's how many I took. Here's how I was feeling. Here's while I slept every single day. And I just want to call your attention to the very bottom line here, where it says the thoughts that she's having. She was tracking this every single day in her diary. And then I want to take a minute and show you this. This is from CVS. So this is the list of all of the prescriptions that had been issued by various doctors and nurses to Lindsay Clancy. So this is all the prescriptions she had filled at CVS. Patrick told us on the stand, we asked about the Zoloft in the beginning, because they said she went on Zoloft and she was acting a little cagey about it, right? Remember, she got the prescription filled and she didn't bother to tell him at first. Then she told him, and then they said, yeah, but she only took it for 7 days and then she went off of it. No. She took it for 7 days, and then the doctor upped the dosage. So they issued a new prescription. And what Patrick testified to yesterday was every time that they would change the medication, or they would change the dosage of the same medication, they would tell Lindsay, just give the old ones to your husband and he will go dispose of them. So she would take 6 or 7 or 2 or 3 of a pill. They would say, okay, let's get you a different prescription. Maybe let's up the dosage. And so then she would give what's remaining in that pill bottle to Patrick, which is why Patrick had all of those pill bottles with unused pills. It wasn't that Lindsay wasn't following doctor's orders. It's that she was following doctor's orders. They told her, stop doing this and start taking this. So that's what she was doing. The defense showed us yesterday what they found in Lindsay's nightstand drawer. And again, this wasn't presented by the prosecution. They found 5 empty pill bottles in Lindsay's nightstand, meaning she took all of the pills as prescribed. Those bottles were empty. She was taking what they told her to, just as the doctors had ordered her to, and she kept a diary every single day of what she was taking. And what's interesting is that it wasn't the prosecution that found the bottles. The defense went into the home after the police had already cleared it and already searched for everything, and they found all of this other pill evidence. And I guess the prosecution just decided to leave that part out of their direct examination, which I'm sure makes the jury feel like, hey, wait a minute, you're not giving us the full story. Patrick said on the stand that Lindsay wasn't a drug addict. She wasn't shopping around for different drugs. She wasn't taking them because she was addicted to anything. It wasn't that she didn't want to take the medications. She wanted to find the right medications. And that is why she kept going back to doctors, asking them to do something, because she wasn't getting better. So we all know about the time that she checked herself into a hospital for over 5 days, like over the very beginning of January, like New Year's into the 5th or 6th of January, for a 5-day stay, which, by the way, Patrick testified she didn't check out early. It was supposed to be a 5-day stay, and she stayed there for 5 days. During the 5 days she was in that facility, he went to visit her a couple of times, and he actually did have conversations with the doctor. Her name was Dr. Goodhart, and she had suggested, he didn't believe she prescribed, but he believed she suggested Lindsay to go on Cymbalta. And Patrick testified. He said, well, we were asking, like, what's Cymbalta and what's it do? And she was basically like, Google it. You could Google it. Super helpful. And that when Lindsay checked out of that facility, it was not against doctor's orders. The doctors were like, okay, yep, she stayed her 5 days. There wasn't a single person that told Patrick it's bad for her to leave. She shouldn't leave. Nobody advised them against it. But he also mentioned, I thought this was interesting, in December, so December 20th of 2022, they drove to Rhode Island, and she checked herself into a women's behavioral health center there. And again, she checked herself in with the intention to stay there for a while. But she got there. Patrick left. They had Dawson with him, so he leaves. She's there. A couple hours later, she calls him back and says, basically, you got to come here. You got to come get me. Like, essentially, they're discovering that what they offer and what she needs might not align. At this hospital, they did not prescribe her any medication, and they told her and Patrick that this type of treatment that they offer, the types of therapies and counselings and the things that they offer there, wasn't suitable for Lindsay. Like, it wasn't the right treatment for her. So she ended up leaving after just a half day at that facility. But the defense attorney, Reddington, asks to put these medical records into evidence. Because whenever you show up at a medical facility, like a new doctor, new hospital, anything like that, you have to fill out some paperwork, right? They have you on record, and they ask you questions about your family history and what you're feeling and what your symptoms are and those kinds of things, right? You go down the list, like, do you have cancer? Do you have diabetes? Like, you go down the whole list and you fill it all out. Lindsay did that. She had medical records from this place. So he says, we'd like to put the certified medical record into evidence, meaning for the jury to see them. But the prosecution objects and says, Your Honor, we don't have copies of these records. And my argument is, why the fuck not? Because wouldn't that be what you were going to do? If you're going to prosecute someone for murder, don't you go look at all the evidence? I'm just asking, in my opinion, would this have been something that could have been exculpatory? That this would be something that would show on paper, on a legal certified medical record, that showed Lindsay writing down on paper how she was feeling, whatever she was taking, whatever she was doing, all of the treatments she's had so far, what other doctors have you visited, God knows what's in there, but the prosecution didn't take the time to go get those records. It's not surprising because we've seen in Massachusetts before where they don't exactly go collect all the evidence. It's kind of like a cop who, there's supposedly a murder happening out on the street, but he doesn't bother to get any of the Ring camera video. Yep. So that made me very suspicious right there. And Patrick also testified to the fact that never once, not one of these medical professionals advised him not to trust Lindsay alone with the children. He had no reason to believe that he wasn't safe leaving children with Lindsay. Like, that wasn't, he could see she was depressed and she was suffering, but no medical professional ever told him he needed to be worried about the children's safety.